Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GSA Super Metroid Any Percent Tournament. My name is Tracy. With me tonight is Kip. How are you doing, Kip?
Tracy, I'm doing well. Really excited to have another chance to do commentary with you tonight, especially for a really sick matchup between two great runners.
Absolutely, same. Yeah, these two are two good friends of mine, two very good runners with personal bests that are really close to each other. So we should have a really good race here.
Yeah. Why don't we take a moment and just talk about the runners while we're getting set up here? Both of these runners, again, as Tracy mentioned, have personal bests in this category that are very close and are very good times. Let's start with ShinyZeni, who is on the left here. ShinyZeni is not only a good any percent runner, but just about everybody in the Super Metroid community is fully aware that he is the RBO world record holder and has pushed that category to limits that a lot of people would have never thought possible. And he's actually going to be representing Super Metroid at AGDQ in January, which we're all very excited about. And then sloaters27 is basically, I've been saying this for a long time. I feel like Sloaters is one of the most sort of underrated people in terms of ability level in the community. He's an exceptional runner. He's got really good times across all the categories, and he's really consistent. So we're in for a real treat tonight. Both of these guys are incredibly experienced and should be very competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking really forward to that AGDQ run of Zennies that we're going to see. And to give you an idea, so Sloaters' PB is at 43.44, ShinyZeni at 43.48. So yeah, those are really close. They're both going to run new route. Sloaters has a tendency to run whatever his opponent runs, and Zenny is a new route runner. So that's what we're going to see here.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Actually, I'm sorry. You had a fun fact you wanted to say?
Yeah, fun fact, you get to play the winner.
Yeah, that's right. I do. These guys are, I guess, vying, if you will. Speaking of vying, but they're vying for the chance to play me in the winners bracket round 3, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, speaking of vie, Tracy, you want to tell us a little bit about our sponsor?
Yeah, so our sponsor, thanks to our sponsor, VIE.GG, Vi, they are providing the prize pool for this tournament. Viewers can bet on the races and can view the sign up link just by typing !bet in chat at any time.
Spoken like a true professional. Nice job, Tracy. But yeah, in all seriousness, we're very excited about the fact that Vi has sponsored the Super Metroid tournament here. This is a cash tournament. It's the first one in Super Metroid history that I'm aware of. And it's really cool to be, having our runs featured on the Speedrun channel and everything like that. So big thank you from everybody in our community to the people putting on this tournament and sponsoring it. What I was going to mention earlier is Sloaters is actually a bit of an anomaly in terms of Super Metroid any percent. For those that don't know, there's kind of two different routes people typically take. One is called Old Route that starts with Kraid and kind of goes in the more traditional order that the game is sort of intended to go. New Route is a route that does Fantune first and has a lot of other sort of dangerous things that go into it, but it can save time based on routing. Sloaters is actually very, very good at both. A lot of times you'll see runners who just kind of like focus on one or the other, but he has a 44 PB in Old Route and a 43 PB in New Route. Both of those times are very competitive. So as I mentioned earlier, he's got a lot of experience around multiple categories and routes.
Yeah, we just see them escaping Cirrus Station. Zenny with a mid, I'd say 46, Sloaters with a high 48, both doing a very nice job. That's the beginning of every run that you're going to see, any full category run. Basically, what we didn't mention, for those of you that maybe don't watch Super Metroid all the time, you'll notice that they didn't try and shoot Ridley there at the beginning. They just try and get damage. That's because to actually kill Ridley there, it takes 100 shots, which would take way too long in a speed run. So we just damage ourselves down and get out of there as quick as possible.
Yeah, and one other thing that I'm really excited to showcase here, ShinyZeni is going to use a method here shortly called the Moonfall, which is relatively new tech in the grand scheme of things. It was only discovered about a year and a half ago, roughly. But as you can see, he's going to uncap his fall speed and fall very, very quickly down the climb room. Sloaters on the other hand, is pretty anti-moonfall, and just like me, he uses what I like to call appropriate fall speed. So I'm happy to see an AFS stream going on here.
Yeah, I'm happy to see the moonfall, one of the strats that I can actually do, although not nearly as well as Zenny did it there.
Oh, Tracy, how could you say that to me?
I don't know. But the reason why a lot of the older runners don't like the moonfall is because you have to turn on moonwalk, and that can mess with your boss fights. When you're somewhat newer to this, actually speedrunning, though I have played the game as long as it's been around. The speedrunning part for me has only been about 6 months. My boss fights weren't that great to begin with, so might as well learn them with moonwalk on, right?
Yeah, it's a good idea, actually, for sure. Yeah, in all seriousness, I joke around about it a lot. I'm sort of anti moonfall, or just I also just don't like moonwalk in general. But I will acknowledge that even if moonfall did not actually exist in the game, like even if that, um, you know, sort of, I guess, glitch didn't exist, moonwalking would still be technically the most optimal thing to do, because on some of the boss fights you can move without turning around, and every time you turn around while you're charging, it actually slows your charge shot down a little bit. So it's definitely the best thing to do regardless, but I just don't personally like the way it feels. It's just kind of not for me. But anyway, here we go to the climb here. I think ShinyZeni and Sloaters both do the traditional wall jump climb, if I recall correctly. Yeah, so there's Zenny doing his. We'll see what Sloaters does here. Same thing. This is one of the toughest rooms in the whole run, in my opinion, and it's really ironic that it's so early in the run. So kind of neat. But this is one of those first rooms that's kind of a daunting challenge for newer.
Well, and especially it's hard to do fast. I mean, if you're just going to do it slowly and casually, not too bad. But yeah, try and do that room fast if you're not used to it. It's definitely one of the harder rooms.
Yeah, for sure. So real quick, Tracy, we're heading into Bomb Terizo here on Zenny's side, and Sloaters is right behind him. You want to tell us a little bit about this fight that's coming?
Well, the BT fight, what they're going to want to do is since they have no ammo, they want to be at full energy so that they can take a few shots at Bomb Terizo. Bomb Terizo will then shoot him with these eggs, and those eggs will give them drops. And ideally, if they have if they have full energy, those drops will all be missiles, as you'll see on Zenny's screen right now, and in just a second with Sloaters. It's really important not to get injured here, so those drops will continue to be missiles until the very end. Plus, you would ideally like to have a few missiles coming out of here, as you'll need them in just a second. We'll see where, because this is a new route, they're going to want to use those missiles to avoid a certain amount of damage later on.
Yeah, that's going to be upcoming here in just a minute. We kind of mention this every time. I want to point something out that Zenny just did. I really love that piece of tech. He's the only person. I mean, there might be others, but he's the only person I've seen use it. He actually, instead of rolling through that wall, he breaks both of the blocks, which I think is really neat.
Oh, I was actually thought maybe you were referring to the his right side Alcatraz. Most people do it on the left side, so you will notice Zenny was wall jumping off the right side to get that little Alcatraz jump, whereas Sloaters and most of the rest of us do it from the left side.
Yeah, I think the right side might be a frame or two faster. I know there's a few people that do that. For example, Jack, who is the old route world record holder. I've seen him do that a lot. But no, Zenny's the only person I've seen use the double bomb break there, which I think is really, really neat. But anyway, as Tracy mentioned earlier, you'll note right now, people would basically break. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. There we go. Okay. So in old route, a lot of times people would just run into those pirates and take damage. Whereas in new route, you don't really want to take damage because you have to go to Fantoon first. So there you go. That's why they shot those pirates, to keep their health up. So when they get to Fantoon, they'll have a lot more health for that fight, which is very dangerous.
It's a little bit slower, but it's a little bit safer. And going into Fantoon with just that one energy tank and no suits makes it a very tough fight. So you want to have as much energy as possible. And both having done a nice job getting those early supers with what I think is the most important mock ball of the game. There are actually going to be two mock balls that are important with new route because they're going to need it to get to the ice beam because they're not going to have speed booster at that time. Otherwise, if they don't do that mock ball to early supers, they'd have to fight Spore Spawn, which is quite a time-consuming fight to get the intended super missiles that they get.
Yeah, another strat variation here. I don't know if Zenny did that on purpose. I actually have never really paid much attention, but he dropped the bomb and then went back to pick up the charge missiles. That's pretty interesting. I'll probably need to go test that out and see. But Sloaters has now managed to pull ahead here slightly, heading into Green Hills. There's a few rooms left. We're probably going to see both runners attempt a damage boost off of this oh, now Slaughter's probably won't anymore because he got hit by the hopper. But yeah, there's the damage boost on Zenny's side. It's a good way to move through the room, get some iframes to go through that last hopper, and it's pretty fast. And now they're going to kill these cack attacks in this room and collect both of the supers. Every time y'all see a cack attack in this run, they have a 99 point, like, I don't know, 6 or something chance to drop a super missile. So if you ever see them drop health, the only reason they would ever drop health is if you're full on supers, or if you get some incredibly rare drop. So most of the time we rely on those to give us the supers that we need. Now, here's an interesting thing. Sorry to keep talking, Tracy, but this is actually pretty rare too. Sloaters went through Hellway and farmed, but he got a super drop. And that is not very common. So what that means is he's at 4 right now, but there are 2 cack attacks on this next room. If he farms the first one before, the second one drops its item, he will farm the super fast enough for the second one to drop a large health worth 20 health, which will be very useful for him moving up. So let's see if he manages to get the super. And then, he skipped. Looks like he skipped the first farm, so he only got the super. I would have kind of assumed that he would have farmed both of those just because his health is on the lower side right now. I think he'd probably be more comfortable with 153, but, assuming Fantoon doesn't do anything crazy, I think he's still in okay shape.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Now we're about to get to one of the strats that you really need for a new route. So we're going to get to the continuous wall jump. And if that doesn't work out, we might see a horizontal bomb jump. So let's see. Well, that looks
Oh, he's
good.
got the CWJ. Yeah, he's got the CWJ attempt.
It doesn't look good for Zenny, though. I think he's going to have to go for the backup. Oh, nicely done by
nice.
Sloaters. And Zenny doing the backup horizontal bomb jump, which is a tricky strat in its own right. And he gets his second try, so no problem there.
Yeah, very nice. Getting over the moat, without falling in the water at all, even if you have to try the horizontal bomb jump a couple times, is still really good. That room is a huge choke point. And in my opinion, I think the horizontal bomb jump is actually trickier. I'm not saying CWJ is easy by any stretch, but it's kind of like you press a button and you either get it or you don't. Whereas horizontal bomb jump, you have to do a bunch of different movement to get it to work correctly.
Yep. And you'll also notice, so one of the differences in this route versus the others, these guys won't have their high jump boots yet, which in a lot of parts of the wreck ship is actually, I think, a little bit easier. For one thing, you don't do the CWJ with high jump boots; you'd have to turn them off. And getting across the ocean area is much easier if you don't have those high jump boots on. Very difficult to do those jumps with high jump on.
For sure. All right, well, here's everybody's favorite slot machine, Fantoon, giving Sloaters a first round fast.
Nice.
But he needs to be careful because that health right now is actually pretty dangerous because he might end up having to purposely tank a shot here in a second. And plus, Fantoon control with the flame. So I hope that the decision not to get that doesn't come back to haunt him. Oh, here we go. Oh my God, I cannot believe he survived.
Oh, but he doesn't. Oh no, Sloaters.
Yes, that was an incredibly unfortunate situation. He's lost, as you can see, probably about 9 minutes or so. That basically, if Fantoon had given him a mid on the second round, he could have basically played it extremely safe and not really been in a position to get hurt. Unfortunately, Fantoon kind of trolled him, not only with the slow, but also with the way the flames worked out. And because he didn't have, above 40 health, he kind of got stuck trying to farm to get back over, 50. And unfortunately, it's just once Fantoon gets into that range where he starts doing that weird attack where he's dropping flames throughout the entire room, it's really hard to dodge those. So that was unfortunate. Zenny, on the other hand, managed to clean his fight up, and he will be heading over to grab his next super missile pack, the final super missile pack of the run.
Yeah, Fantoon is a notorious run killer, so a lot of runs die to Fantoon. It's kind of you're talking about the CWJ being a choke point, but that's more of a time issue. Uh, yeah, Fantoon again, no suits, one energy tank. It's just a tough fight.
It is, and I mean, I think everybody who runs this game has, full understanding. But just for those of you that might be, kind of casual viewers that have never, never run the game very much, this new route situation, trying to run this route, even if you put safeties in, is still incredibly difficult. There's all kinds of, really dangerous situations that not only will take up time but can like literally kill you. Um, the Fantoon fight is certainly not free by any stretch of the imagination, and even the best runners in the world die to Fantoon sometimes.
Okay, Zenny's going to get to the next troublesome point. His energy looks really good. He's going to go through this room to get to bowling, where these spikes are going to do 60 damage apiece. And he's going to try and only get hit twice. He's got enough, though. He can get hit 3 times. And, sometimes it takes that third jump. And in the any percent tournament over the summer, we saw quite a few old route runs that ended right in this room that Zenny's about to enter.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, I think two of them ended against me, so that's definitely true. That room can definitely mess people up, and it's a lot easier to die in there than people would imagine.
Oh, it's very easy to die in there.
But to your point, like you said earlier about the high jump boots, that does at least make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, getting only 2 jumps with high jump boots is much more difficult than the non-high jump boot situation that they have right now.
So yeah, in terms of Zenny, Sloaters is obviously going back and redoing some of the stuff that he's already done from the beginning. Zenny is grabbing his gravity suit. Let me give you a quick update on that. A lot of times people kind of forget how it works in vanilla because of the popularity of randomizers, which change some of the aspects of the suits. But gravity is best known in this game for giving you the ability to move, in water and not take damage in lava and stuff. But another primary thing is that it actually gives you the maximum amount of defense in this game. Basically, once you collect gravity, you have the most damage reduction that you're going to have for the entire run, outside of things like, the Mother Brain Rainbow Beam, and I think like the Baby Metroid damage and stuff like that. So basically, even though Zenny will probably not pick up Various Suit, that won't make any difference towards how much damage he takes from enemies, because once you have gravity, you have the maximum amount.
Well, actually, as you know, he is going to pick up the berry suit, but for one very specific reason, being that rainbow beam that you talked about will do 6 E-tanks of damage instead of 3 if he leaves that barrier suit off. So it's the one place where it makes a difference in a normal run.
Yeah, for sure. And in this case, again, I don't know if he's going to play it safe and go to Kraid first or whatever. But if he doesn't, there's really no difference between having only gravity or gravity and Varia. If you're like in Lower Norfair, for example, the key hunters are still going to do 50 damage regardless. So just something to be aware of. Some people think that they stack. They only stack in vanilla if you get Varia first, if that makes sense.
Right.
So once you grab gravity, you pretty much got what you need.
Gravity kind of makes berry suit obsolete. When they designed this game, I'm not sure they really intended people to get gravity first anyway. So
I agree with you, and I have this interesting theory. If you go into the game and you pause it and you look at the menu, like where you press R and you look at Samus and you look at all the beams and the equipment and stuff that she has, if you were to take Various Suit off but leave gravity on, the giant shoulder pads actually go away on what she looks like in the menu. So I think that they kind of intended for only Various Suit to be like the damage reduction against heat and stuff like that, but they just probably didn't. Maybe they didn't assume anybody would get gravity first, so who knows?
mm-hmm. Okay, and Zenny heading down to Norfair, so he's going to do Ridley first. The main reason you might do Kraid first, it's a little safer if you're going to do a gravity jump, and we'll see that in a little bit when Zenny heads down to Lower Norfair. Also, if you were to choose to get the energy tank at Kraid, that would also be an extra safety.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people, like I've done this in multiple of my races. Sometimes I will grab the various suit and the Kraid tank in a kind of a safer run. The various suit only helps out on the gravity jump if you do that strat, because the gravity jump requires you to take the gravity suit off while you're in the lava. So you can half the amount of damage that the lava does to you if you have on the various suit, as opposed to not having it. And plus, that extra tank is really helpful. But Zenny's just going to play it straight up here in terms of new route. He's going to grab Ice Beam here, then start his other item collection throughout the rest of Norfair with Wave Beam and Speed Booster before heading down to Lower Norfair.
And here's that second important mock ball of the game. Normally, the game intends you to have Speed Booster to get through that area. And without Speed Booster, you need to do that mock ball to get through. So you can pick up that Ice Beam. It'd be quite a backtrack to have to go pick up that Speed Booster and come back this way.
Yeah, for sure. To your point, Ice Beam and Old Route is typically the last beam collected, because it's grabbed right before people head to Lower Norfair. But here, having it early, also in conjunction with the Spazer Beam, actually allows for some pretty interesting, cool tech during the Upper Norfair section that you can't do in a traditional Old Route run where you wouldn't have Spazer. So we'll see some cool use of the Spazer Beam here shortly.
Well, yeah, and they picked up the Spazer Beam because by the time they get to the ability to pick up Plasma Beam, it's just too far out of the way to be a big enough time save to pick it up. Since it would only help on the Mother Brain 2 fight, and the amount of time, it's 20 shots versus 60, but the amount of time it takes to get that Plasma Beam just doesn't save that amount of time.
Sloater setting up for another CWJ attempt here.
Oh,
unfortunately, just missed.
That's the one I hate the most.
Yeah, that's the 2-frame window.
You feel like you get it, and you just fly right over.
Zenny going for a right side bubble mountain there. It's a really, really, really tight jump. It's got to be basically like a pixel or two, basically. But anyway, he just barely missed it, but he had a nice backup there where he used his Spazer Beam to freeze one of the waivers to jump up the rest of Bubble Mountain. So good job there.
Yep. I always like to see what runners do in Bubble Mountain, because I swear you could watch 10 different runners and see 10 different Bubble Mountain strats. It's really cool to see the differences.
Yeah, that's true. Sloater's now going with the horizontal bomb jump here, but unfortunately having a little bit of trouble with it. This is a incredibly tricky trick that you got to do. I guess, of course, it's a tricky trick, but you basically have to drop a bomb, drop a second bomb, then drop a third bomb up in the air, with a certain rhythm to get them to fly you over. And the way the physics work, I don't know how to explain it in words, but it just doesn't feel like what you would think it would feel like. So it's kind of a hard trick to learn. It takes a long time to master. So Sloaters is now heading over the ocean to go fight Fantoon again. Zenny, on the other hand, will now head to pick up Wave Beam and then head to Lower Norfair to fight.
Yeah, and Sloater's energy count looks a lot better than it did the last time, so hopefully that'll bode well for him.
Yeah, 178 gives you a lot more leeway than, I think, what was it, 133 he had last time?
That's what it was.
Yeah, and there's just sometimes, it's basically impossible to have a damageless Fantoon fight. Number one, it's not even optimal because you have to use getting hit sometimes to set certain, patterns up or whatever with how you want a Doppler. But also, Fantoon can just troll you with all kinds of crazy flame patterns. So it's good that he's got a little more leeway here.
Okay, so now Zenny's going into this kind of, I've started to call this the Remembered Highway, kind of a takeoff the Forgotten Highway that connects Meridia and the wrecked ship, because it was brought back in New Route. In the vanilla game, if you're playing this casually, this route, the other way, is how you get up to Bubble Mountain in order to get things like Speed Booster and possibly Wave Beam, although the vanilla game or the casual game intends you to get Wave Beam after you've picked up Grapple Beam. So I just started calling that just kind of a shout out to that. Let's see. And here, he's going for the Shine Spark. Can he get it? Oh,
very
nicely
nice.
done. Lava Spark. Always like to see that.
Sloaters, meanwhile, looks like he's setting up a 2-round. Excellent 2-round Fantoon that time. I can't remember if he got a fast first round, but yeah, 2-round. He did a great job on his first Doppler. He actually got 7 in. on the Doppler portion, which gave him 11 total hits out of the 19 he needed before the super missile. So I cleaned it up quite nicely, and now Zenny's saving the game and heading down to make his way to Ridley. There's a lot of dangerous rooms down here. This portion of the run, it's not necessarily, from a technical perspective, the single hardest portion, but it's still very difficult, and you have the added pressure of knowing that if you mess up too bad, you could lose the entire run. So let's see how he handles it here.
Well, in lower Norfair, without screw attack and without plasma beam is always a little bit more difficult, and these runners are not going to pick that up at any point in time.
Yeah, I made the joke with ShinyZeni the last time he did a race that it's nice because he's used to RBO, so it's nice that he has a suit and he doesn't have to take constant damage. But I told him, you're used to having screw attack, so make sure you don't accidentally just spin jump into a key hunter and die.
Absolutely, because that could happen. Fortunately, the sprite of the game is different for screw attack than not screw attack. So
right. Sloaters had a very clean attic there. He used, I don't know exactly who came up with the strat, but it looked exactly like the strat that Behemoth uses. So really nice job there. Zenny's going to wait for this key hunter to save the 50 damage. And he's also going to save his game here before Ridley. Not a bad decision. I don't expect him to die here, but at the same time, you never know how badly Ridley control you. I think Zenny died twice to Ridley in the last race. So, especially with a lead of this sort of distance, I mean, I'm not jinxing anybody here. This is just a simple reality of the situation. Like Zenny would have to die, especially using his saves. He would have to die multiple times for Sloaters to catch up. So in terms of, game theory, it's a smart decision for him to kind of protect his lead as best as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Sloaters goes through his bowling, I'm also going to go ahead and thank our sponsor again, VIE.GGV, for providing the prize pool for this tournament. Viewers can bet on races and can view the sign-up link by typing !bet in chat. And Sloater's picking up his gravity suit. I will mention this. We have seen in previous any percent tournament races, you can actually clip right through that gravity suit. So good to see that not happening to anyone here today.
Yeah, I've done that before, and let me tell you, that is a definite feels bad, man. Okay, Zenny's going to set up for some X Factors here on Ridley. Unfortunately, though, he doesn't have 4 power bombs, so the most he can potentially get here is 3. Oh, it looks like he accidentally forgot to... Yeah, he accidentally forgot to select power bombs on the secondary sequence there, and so he was only able to get the original one here. So he'll turn his beams back on, and he'll need to do a total of 18,000 damage to Ridley. Those charge shots will do 300 each. Supers will do 600 each. So he's probably going to need to do somewhere in the ballpark of, let's see, he did 4 X Factors. He's got 7 super missiles, so that's 18. He's going to need to do 42 charge shots worth of damage to kill Ridley.
Right, this beam combo would normally take 60 shots if you were to only use this beam combo. So having those supers and being able to use them will help him out a lot. And it looks like he's going to use his missiles as well. In general, the fastest DPS here is to use the supers. What you will see in old route, you'll typically see them use their charge plasma combination just because they want to save that ammo and not have to refill the ship to go to Turian. But the nice thing about this way this new route works is because you're going to do Ridley and then you're going to go do Kraid, you are going to hit that mini Kraid. And mini Kraid pretty much drops 4 or 5 supers every time you go through there. So it's going to be basically a free super refill that they're going to get twice. Once going in and once coming out.
Yeah, great point. And in the meantime, a very clean fight by Zenny. Good job. He's going to now de-equip Spazer and Ice, unless he forgets.
And skips the E-Tank.
Yeah, he's skipping the E-Tank. I'm actually... Okay, there he goes. I think he forgot because he's used to RBO. A lot of times, like, it's really complex, man. This game is very, very technical. And if you're like kind of used to running or practicing a specific category, a lot of times, even in normal situations, you're thinking about that category as opposed to, the one that you're currently running. So he probably just wasn't thinking about it. But the reason he wants to go ahead and de-equip Spazer and Ice here is because in the future, he's going to want to use X Factors versus Batwoon and Dragon. And secondly, he is going to probably kill some creatures with his beam from here to there anyway, which if you have Ice Beam, you have to, hit them an extra time because you freeze them. So by de-equipping those, it's going to allow him to move faster through several rooms.
Okay, meanwhile, Sloaters enters his Norfair. That's actually, I'm going to point out, one of the other advantages to this new route is that you only have to go into Norfair once. In old route, typically you go down to Norfair, pick up things like high jump, speed booster, wave beam, and then come out and go up to the wrecked ship. And then you have to come back down for your Ridley fight.
Yeah, that's a good point. So while Zenny is getting ready to escape here, he's going to be coming up on the probably most dangerous room of the escape sequence in many ways. It's called the Three Musketeers. It's 3 key hunters that are set up in kind of a staircase pattern here. But, he has enough health where he could just tank some of the shots anyway. But he's going to try to manipulate them to move. Very clean. Excellent job.
Very nicely done. I like to call that the game's last middle finger to the runner because kind of like a not so fast, my friend. You still need to get out of this room before you can proceed.
Yeah, for sure. And at top level play, when one thing a lot of people don't fully realize about this category, or I guess this route in this category, is it's not quite the RNG fest that something like low ice is necessarily, but especially at the top level when you're talking about, the guys that are pursuing world records and stuff, they're pushing it to its most extreme, that they have to constantly rely on drops, and a lot of times they don't get exactly what they need. So a lot of runs die in that room because they just have almost no health, and if they make the tiniest of mistakes, they get hit for a ton of damage. So
Absolutely.
Cool to see him get out of there. Sloaters is now going to head over to collect his wave beam and his speed booster. Zenny, on the other hand, will kill Kraid first, as Tracy mentioned, grab his various suit, and then move along to Meridia.
And like we said before, we have to grab that various suit for one specific scene. That Rainbow Beam will do half the damage with various suit, 600 if you have gravity, 300 if you have barrier as well. And it would just take too much time to pick up those 3 extra E-tanks instead of the various suit.
Yeah, and as Tracy mentioned there, Mini Kraid, who Zenny just ran through with his speed booster, does actually drop. He actually drops like I think it's a 99 point whatever 0.4 percent chance or whatever to drop supers, and he drops 4 immediately, and then he drops a 5th one after a short delay. Most runners in this route just run straight through him and get the 4 and don't get the 5th one. But even if you skip that 5th one, if you think about going in and then when you leave, that's 8 total supers. So you only have to fire 3 at Kraid and then 1 to get into the ball store. So you can basically rely on, leaving Kraid with an extra 4 super. So you're kind of hoping that he drops a few to the point where you can at least have 7 and use one of them to kill Mini Kraid on the way out and then refill to 10. So that's kind of the optimal ammo situation. Here, yeah. Zenny has a bunch of extra ones, so he'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes this route faster as opposed to killing Kraid first, is one, that free super refill that you don't have to think about if you do this first. You might have to do extra little bit of farming if you do Kraid before Ridley. And then also, you have the speed booster, so that in and of itself is going to save a few seconds.
I think Zenny's going to drop a power bomb here, probably. Yeah, he has 5. You typically only do this strat if you have 5 or 4 right there, but it's faster to drop that power bomb and then go ahead and break the block on your way out, as opposed to just using a regular bomb and having to.
Beautiful mock ball exit with the super missile there.
Yeah, and now Sloater's getting ready for his gravity, his lava spark attempt, which is a very, very tough trick in this route. There's 2 ways to get in. This is definitely the most optimal, but very difficult. It's looking good so far.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful. So one quick difference you will note between Zenny and Sloater is even though both of them got the lava spark, Zenny menued to take off Spazer and Ice to use those X factors against Ridley. Sloaters opted to not menu, so you'll note that he still has Spazer and Ice on. That means that basically when he gets to Ridley, he will not be using any X Factor strats, so he will only be able to rely on his missiles, his super missiles, and charge shots.
Right, and it's not necessarily a bad way of going about him. After all, Behemoth doesn't use the X Factor strats on Ridley either, and he is, after all, the world record holder. So it can't all be wrong.
Yeah, for sure. It's you know, either one. It just depends. There's a lot of debate about this, but it kind of comes down to, in theory, using X Factor strats, if everything went perfectly, could be a bit faster, but you can't rely on it because even if you do everything perfectly, Ridley can actually decide to troll you a little bit and do some different movement. Like sometimes it's literally impossible to even get an attempt at 4. So, some people do it for consistency's sake. In terms of some people choose not to do X Factors for consistency's sake.
And to give you an idea, in the Summer Any Percent tournament, I saw only 2 people successfully get 4 X Factors in a Ridley fight. One of them was Zost, and the other one happened to be in a race versus Zost. Robotallion got it, and it was kind of cool to see 2 people get 4 X Factors in the same race. So that was a fun thing to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, Zenny's gonna get geared up for his full halfy attempt here, while Sloaters is heading into the Metal Pirate.
Skip that Baoun E-Tank since he already has the 3rd one from Ridley.
Just barely missed the down grab at the top there. That's a really tight trick. You don't have a very large window of time to be able to pull that off. So he just barely missed that down grab, and so when he fell, he just needed to go through the room the normal way here. Not a big deal. Again, if this were a PB attempt, you'd be kind of bummed to miss that trick because I think it saves somewhere around like 6 to 8 seconds or something like that, which is a lot. But in a race scenario like this where he's just trying to protect his lead, it's not really a big deal.
Yeah, and it's funny we call that the normal strat because the game intends you to get across there using the grapple beam, which is by far and away the worst way to go through that room.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I had nightmares trying to go through that room when I played this game the first time with the grapple beam.
Yeah, I totally understand. Actually, when I first started speedrunning this game, I kept getting grappled for a long time and all kinds of other stuff, and I would dread getting to that room because I would get stuck sometimes.
Sloater's looking good on his Ridley fight. Oh, and Zeni gets grabbed.
Yeah, Zeni went for basically the most optimal Dragon you can have, which is you only end up sparking her twice, and you do the rest of the damage by trying to put some missiles and super missiles into her belly before you do the last spark. But unfortunately, it's really hard to do. It's an incredibly hard strat, and he was just a little off. I think he also lost his spike suit. I could be wrong about this, but spike suit is a double frame perfect trick. I think it's the 1st and the 9th frame you have to hit to get it, but if you hit it on the 8th frame, you actually lose the charge, and I think that's what just happened to him. So I don't think we're going to see him spark across this room. Yeah.
And indeed, we're not. And Sloaters chooses not to get the Ridley E-Tank, so he'll pick up the Baoun one instead. It's a little more optimal. Well, it saves a little more time to pick up that one instead of the Ridley E-Tank since it's right on your way and you don't have to do any door transitions to get it.
Yeah, another cool moonfall there by Zeni. That's moonfall is, obviously most effective in rooms that are, vertical rooms, and that full halfy room, the one leading up to the full halfy, is a great vertical room to use a moonfall there. So cool tech. Sloaters is on his way out of Lower Norfair, so he'll be doing the same stuff we saw Zeni do earlier. Executing a great speedball there. That's one of my favorite strats in the Lower Norfair because it's very, very swag looking.
So Zeni's ammo is a little bit low. I suspect he'll still skip the refill at the ship, but he might choose to go there just as an extra little safety, knowing that he's got a bit of a lead here.
Yeah, it just depends, on what you want to do. If I were in his position, I would do it just because you would basically be able to skip all of this farm of the bugs, and you would make yourself basically like 99.99999 or whatever % guaranteed to get the drops that you need in Torian. But it just kind of depends. Some people prefer to just keep it moving as opposed to stop. It is time consuming, but in this particular case, with it being a race and he's really far ahead, it wouldn't surprise me to see him grab it.
Yeah, relying on those Metroid drops can be a little tough because they don't always give you the supers that you want.
No, they certainly do not. And in a normal any percent new route run where you're going for a PB, you don't really have time to farm a ton and you don't have time to stop. And sometimes the Metroids can just basically say no to you. And if that happens, your entire run, no matter how good it was, can end in Torian.
Absolutely. Okay, so Zeni decides not to stop at the ship.
Maybe he'll farm these pirates and get a few drops before he heads down here. Or maybe not. Maybe he's just going to go for it.
It looks like he hasn't turned his phaser and ice beam back on, so he's going to have to do that pretty soon.
Yeah, typically in this particular route, people, if you go for the spike suit, for example, and you get it, people will wait to turn on the ice and phaser beam until they hit the Torian elevator. That's kind of complicated to explain, but you can save a few frames. Like when you pause this game and it starts to fade out, you can still move and still do some things for a split second. So you can kind of activate that elevator sequence and start to move down while you're heading into the menu. So that's what people are typically trying to do.
Yeah, that's probably where he's going to do it. Sloater's going to go for his crate. Yeah, and there
we go. One small thing as we watch Sloaters get geared up for his crate quick kill here. One thing we kind of have mentioned in multiple of these races is if people are more accustomed to seeing new route, or if they are accustomed to kind of playing this game casually, they'll ask, why aren't people picking up the space jump? And the reason for that is it's not because space jump isn't a good item, and it's not even that it couldn't save time. Technically, it could save time if you were to get it for free. You can move through some of these Torian rooms faster, but the problem is you'd have to go through a door transition, and then you would have to go through the item fanfare, and by the time you pick it up, you're done with almost everything. The primary reason it saves time in old route is because you get to use it in Lower Norfair as well as the Meridia section where you're picking up plasma. Since New Route doesn't do, stuff in that order, there's just no reason to grab it. So that's why, you see Zeni not having it, and Sloaters is not going to pick it up as well. Well, Tracy, do you remember when I talked about the ammo at the ship?
Yeah, 28. I mean, it's enough. He's going to have to be careful, though, with that Mother Brain 1 fight.
I just need to stop talking about the potential negative possibilities of skipping health or ammo, because every time I've mentioned, hey, this could actually happen, and it's happened every time. So my bad, boys. Didn't mean to curse you.
Okay, so let's see. If he uses supers on the door, that's going to leave him with 6. I'm trying to think if that's enough.
All he needs to do here is and if he's paying attention, hopefully he'll do this. A lot of times people forget on the fly, but all he needs to do is missile the first red door here, and then refill.
Yeah, and that's not
if he does that. Yeah, it's not gonna, it's not a huge deal. In a PB attempt, though, this could, eat up a lot of time. But fortunately, it's a race and not a PB attempt. But yeah, now at this point, he's gonna super the next 2 doors. So there's a boss door and then one more red door, which will put him at 6. It's kind of hard to explain, but consider the supers to be worth 3 each, and each missile to be worth 1 each. You need a total of 36 if you do them in the right order to kill Mother Brain 1, and so that would be 38. He'd have a regular, regular missile 2 miss leeway, but he can't miss any supers.
Yeah, because the red doors will take 5 missiles, which would be the equivalent of 500 damage, or 1 super missile, which would be the equivalent of 300 damage. So it's definitely more efficient to use a super missile on the red doors. On the Ghidorah, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be 300 regardless, because it'll be 3 missiles or 1 super.
That's a good point. Unfortunately, it eats up way more time if you use regular missiles, because it shuts its eye after each regular missile. So if you're only going to use supers on one of the doors, that's probably the one you want to use in terms of time.
Absolutely. And here we go. He has no problem with Mother Brain 1. Looks like he had just the right amount of ammo there. Notice he did save there, just in case, and especially if your ammo's real tight, that's not a bad idea. And saving there instead of saving at the ship makes a lot more sense because, at this point, you don't want to go all the way back to the ship, instead of just going back a few rooms.
Right, I got to shout out Sloaters real quick too. He got the full halfie setup, but unfortunately he got what we refer to as the goofy quarter halfie. I think if I recall correctly, that was named by Cot Power, but some of the older people in the community could correct me if I'm wrong on that. He just sparked like maybe a pixel or two too low and ran into that first barrier there. So, but in the meantime, Zeni's doing his Mother Brain fight, 60 shots, and he'll be good to go.
Yep, and no ammo, so it's going to be all the charge ice wave spazer combination. Sloater starting his Dragon fight in the meantime. You'll notice that he used an X Factor to start this fight off. And the one nice thing in the Dragon fight, the one danger when using X Factors is that if they miss, you can't shoot anything while those particles are flying around. That's not really a danger in the Dragon fight the way we do it in any percent, because you're not shooting anything, you're just using the Shine Sparks at that point.
Yeah, and I had the same issue in my last run and race I talked about in the interview, but Sloaters right now, like Dragon is like Dragon is a fight that technically is not really that hard, but if you just barely mess up or she just does something really weird, then it can eat up so much time. Like it's insane how much time this fight can eat up if it doesn't go your way. Probably more than just about any other fight in this particular route. So luckily he did get the spike suit there, and he's going to spike across this room here, or excuse me, spark across this room, and make his way to the surface.
All things considered, considering he had a Desert Fan too, and this is a very nice run for Sloaters here. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to be enough to catch him up. At this point, with Zeni just finishing up Mother Brain 2, there's not a whole lot of danger left here. So,
no, the only thing left that could, I guess, realistically bring Sloaters back into the chance of winning this matchup would be either one thing that has actually happened before, or one thing that I do not think has ever happened before, which is number one, if his power goes out, if ShinyZeni's power goes out, which
we don't
actually has happened.
Yeah.
That has actually happened in a race from somebody who was winning before. Or secondly, I should give a big shout out to Zeni and his wife, who is in chat right now. They are getting ready, if I recall correctly, to have their third child very soon. So if wife of Zeni went into labor, I think that'd be the first time that would happen to affect a race. So I hope that I'm sure the kid's going to be a speedrunner, but I hope that the child waits a little bit longer to start the speedrunning process.
let's wait a little bit longer. Third child of Zeni, we'll call it. I don't know if they know if it's a girl or boy. Looks like it's going to be a girl. December 21st. That was my grandmother's birthday, so shout outs to my grandmother.
So yeah, Zeni's done here, and yeah, he's just heading his way out here. And luckily, the escape sequence. I kind of say this, and sometimes it ends up cursing people, but generally speaking, in comparison to other sections of this run, the escape sequence at the end is not really one of the most complex in terms of, I guess, sort of mechanical requirements, if you will. So I don't really anticipate him having too much issue here, and even if he did, he wouldn't lose a ton of time. So great run by Zeni. He's going to be moving on to the winners bracket, or winners round number 3 next week.
To that matchup with you.
Yeah, he'll be racing me, so it should be a lot of fun. Ooh, he went for the left side, just barely missed it.
And Sloaters, on the other hand, he's not done yet, since this is a winner's bracket round. He will go into the loser's bracket, and he will play the winner of Freya's Spirit versus a Real Cutie. So
Yeah, and that's a good thing. One thing I really like about this tournament is losing one time does not mean that you are out by any stretch of the imagination. As we mentioned before, Sloters is a fantastic runner, and outside of his death, he's done a lot of really great things in this run as it is. So I anticipate that it will be very difficult for somebody to knock him out. In fact, he's the 3 seed in this tournament, the first runner behind Zost and Oats and Goats, who are the number 1 and number 2 seed. So I don't think we're done seeing Sloters by any stretch of the
Oh, no, not at
imagination.
all. Although, fun fact, I didn't even realize it until I looked the other day. Oates lost his first round match, so we might see a nice little matchup there coming up in the next few weeks.
Yeah, he technically, I believe, got disqualified. So
Ah,
I
I
don't,
did
I
see
don't
that.
think he was able to get his race scheduled in time. So, but
Mm,
as I mentioned in one of my previous races, somebody like Oates, who has the type of skill that he does, wouldn't shock me at all to see him, run through the
no,
losers bracket.
no,
So I'm
not at
not
all.
really worried about, I'm not really worried about him getting knocked. So GG to ShinyZeni. He's finishing with an official time of 47:21 here. We'll see if he will come in for an interview short. Meanwhile, Sloters is in good shape with his health and ammo, so he's going to get geared up for the baby skip attempt as well as Mother Brain.
Okay, and while we wait for this, one more time, thank you to our sponsor, VIE.GGV, for providing the prize pool for this tournament. Viewers can bet on races and can view the sign-up link by typing !bet in chat.
Yeah, big thank you to the sponsors. Sloter is getting his baby skip set up. Very nicely done. That's one of the sort of bigger and in a lot of ways kind of harder tricks to pull off when you first start running this game. And one thing that maybe people don't talk about quite so much is one of the things that makes the baby skip hard is unless you're just like one of the most elite runners on the planet, I think just about everybody who's on a good pace for a PB, which can be very difficult to get once you get to certain thresholds, that you have to get that baby skip for the most part to get a PB. Now, there are actually examples of people out there like Links Unlimited who raced earlier today and won, who I believe his current PB, which is a very good solid 43 time, actually did not include the baby skip, which saves like 20 to 25 seconds. So it's one of those mental barriers. You get there and you're like, man, I really got to get this trick. So you never get to rest easy at any point during this run.
Yeah, in a closer race, it can make the difference between winning and losing if one person gets it and the other one doesn't.
That's true. And so Sloters will now get set up to shoot Mother Brain 2 here 60 times. Just to do a quick recap, I believe we had 3 of the round 2 races, winners round 2 races today. Zost was able to defeat Robotallion. I believe Lynx X Unlimited defeated Scotty McBody. And then here, ShinyZeni will defeat Sloters. And then the other race was earlier this past week. I raced Toasty Muffins and was able to win. So we got 4 players left in this tournament who haven't lost yet. I think we've had a few people who have now been knocked out from double elimination, but there's still a lot of people alive for this thing, and it will continue until we have a winner. So we have several more weeks of Super Metroid action to come.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Yeah, so we'll have Zost versus Links Unlimited, and you're going to play ShinyZeni. Then we'll have to see what looks like in the losers bracket. We already have setting up a Toasty Muffins versus Feral SR, and we'll be in Robotallion will be waiting on the winner between Typo and Elminster RTA, and like I said earlier, Sloters will be waiting on the winner between Freya Spirit and a Real Cutie, with Oats and Goats and Travatox yet to be played as well.
Yeah, really cool tournament. Every single person in this tournament's a great runner, and it's kind of cool to see different styles of play too. Some people will run new route. We have some people who run an old route. But yeah, as we continue to go forward here, I think roughly about 4 people are going to be knocked out per losers bracket round or losers round bracket or whatever for the next couple rounds in a row. So we'll be trimming down pretty quickly. Sloaters is going to finish up here shortly, and I think the final collection item percentage for Zenny was 20. I believe for Sloaters, unless I'm mistaken, I think it's going to be 20 as well. 19 is the percentage that the world record, like the people going for the fastest times get. But a lot of times in these races, even if people normally run 19%, they'll grab an extra missile pack. And sometimes people even grab an extra E-tank. So here, one extra missile pack leads to 20% instead of 19.
Yeah, that usually what they'll skip is that wave missile, the one you pick up right before wave beam. And that extra safety really comes in handy. It's really important at the Mother Brain 1 fight. It's very easy to get those missiles sniped, and if you don't have that extra missile, that can happen to you. And it looks like we have Zenny.
That's a good point.
Zenny, you there?
Yeah. Yep,
How you doing?
Great.
Yeah, congratulations.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, GG, man. Good run.
Yeah, it was decent considering the little RBO mishaps that went on. So yeah.
Yeah, let me start by asking, because we've talked about this even last week. You're in the midst of and I want to mention this again to everybody in chat just as a reminder, but you're going to be running RBO at AGDQ here, I believe next month. It's in January, right?
Yeah, January 12th, I believe.
So you're still in the midst of, obviously doing a lot of prep, and you're trying to push your world record time down as well. So occasionally, muscle memory's pretty strong. At the end of the Ridley fight, when you forgot to turn ice and spacer off, and then you turned it off in the next room, was that one of the RBO situations?
Yeah, that was just one of those. I forgot that I wanted to switch it off for any percent. There's that. There was the Hotarubi strat for the charge missiles.
Oh yeah, I noticed that.
There are a couple other things. The early supers entry. I just jumped off the elevator instead of doing the walk off, and then I forgot to collect the missiles from the little, what are they called, Zilas?
Oh.
Okay, see, the stream kind of went out for us for a minute there. Like, we couldn't see exactly what was happening. Yeah. And so I noticed that Sloaters, you were a bit ahead of him up to that point, and then I noticed that y'all were about even, and I couldn't figure out exactly what happened, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I jumped off the elevator thinking that, of course I have enough missiles to open the door, but I didn't. And I had taken damage from one of them on the way down, and so I shot the first two, and the first one dropped a missile, but the second one dropped health. So then I had to chase down the third one, and yeah, Sloaters took the lead at that point. I think I lost like 10 seconds right there. Yeah. So but yeah, other than stuff like that, I feel like the run went pretty well. The Ridley fight in general was a little bit sloppy, just because I kind of fat fingered my inputs, so I couldn't get the X factors off correctly.
I like that your wife's saying in chat that it would have been so entertaining if they stayed neck and neck.
Yeah.
Nice support.
Well, that's what makes a good race, right?
So
I saw when Sloaters died to Fantoon, and it made me sad. I was like, oh dang, like that sucks. But
did you take some extra safeties after seeing that? Because we saw you save a couple times in Norfair.
Yeah, so like I probably wouldn't have done both the elevator and before Ridley saves. Otherwise, I probably would have just done one of those. And there were a couple other things that I played safe. One thing that I forgot to do though was save before Dragon. So if I had taken chain damage there, that actually would have put us like right neck and neck again. Sloaters would have been ahead by like a minute or two.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, chain damage. No kidding. That is a very real thing and a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, for sure. But I think you played it correctly in terms of just thinking about it as a race. We've talked about this a lot, but once you get a lead of that magnitude, there's really only one way for you to lose, and that's basically to have a really bad mishap and die somewhere. So I think taking those saves was a really smart decision. Right. Just kind of setting yourself up and then taking the safeties. But so tell us a little bit, while we're here, I want to keep promoting this because this is such a big deal, but tell us a little bit, even though this is the 80% tournament, tell us a little bit about the prep you've been doing for GDQ, because we're all excited to see you run.
So yeah, I'm running reverse boss order at AGDQ in January. Basically, so I started running that in September of last year, and I enjoyed it enough that I just pushed it down until I got world record and then sub-hour time. And people wanted me to submit it for GDQ, so I did, and they accepted it. And so yeah, I'm gonna be going to do that. But obviously, like that's a lot of pressure. So I'm trying to get ready for that. Not really sure what else to say. Basically, if I'm not doing any percent prep for a race, that's what I'm doing when I play and when I stream, is just RBO prep, whether that's practice or runs or what. So
yeah, but I also want to congratulate you on your upcoming third child. So that's got to be pretty exciting as well.
Yeah,
yes,
man, definitely.
thank you. Yeah, we're excited. The wife is definitely done being pregnant, so.
Yeah, no fun at this point, I suppose.
Okay, well, Zenny, thank you very much for the interview. I think we're going to bring Sloaters in here, so we'll ask him some questions.
Awesome.
Feel free to stick around if you'd like to talk to him as well, or if you
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll hang out.
Alrighty.
Thanks. Sloaters might need just a second to kind of get set up here. But if I recall correctly, unless I miscounted, I believe he's going to have 20% as well. And I think Sloaters is here now. Sloaters, can you hear us?
Yep.
Hey, man. GG, welcome in.
Thank you.
So, obviously, the first thing that I'm sure that, you would want to talk about is the first Fantoon section, which he really trolled you pretty hard on the slow pattern and then giving you a bad, flame patterns and then, kind of getting stuck with those flames. So just talk us through a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, it was really a combination of a lot of things. I wasn't really low on health, but you can certainly have a lot more going in there. He gave me the fast left at the start and then started shooting flames at me. So I took like 80 damage right off the bat. And then he gave me a slow with like no really health drops until he opened, and then he gave me a trolley opener, and then I think he opened again with the invisible pattern fast. So like I was just scrambling for health the whole time, and yeah, it was just a really bad mix of a lot of things.
Yeah, and actually we commented, or Kip commented, you actually survived a little bit longer than maybe you even should have. So
I was impressed that you stayed alive as long as you did. I mean, like that. For people in chat to have context, like the situation that you were in is not something that any of us ever practice, like, being stuck in that scenario. So the fact that you even lived as long as you did was really impressive. But beyond that, I mean, a lot of the rest of your run, when you did your full run, looked really clean. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, outside of Moat and like Dragon and getting just the normal halfie, like it was super clean. The lower Norfair stuff, everything went really smooth. I felt like it was a really good Ridley fight. I didn't hit any key hunters on the way out, so like it was pretty solid, I think. Like if I didn't die, it probably would have been pretty close to the time Zenny had, so
yeah, it would have been nice. Would have been a nice
Yeah, your overall time was actually really good considering the death 9 minutes in. Definitely.
Yeah, but it happens.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Super Metroid, as we say.
One more question for both of you. So first, Zenny, looks like you're going to be playing Kip. So how do you feel about that? Is Kip
I'm stoked.
scouting you out?
Yeah, I'm super stoked to race Kip. I'm ready to lose.
Oh, please.
Well, we'll let you guys decide it on the TV screen or however you want to put that. As Sloaters, you're going to play the winner of Freya's Spirit and a Real Cutie. So what do you think of that?
Honestly, I was really excited to either win or lose, because if I won, I would get to play Kip finally in like a tournament. And if I lost, I'd be able to play Cutie, who's a good friend, and I really want to knock him out of the tournament with Old Route.
Yeah, will you tell us a little bit about that? Because he runs Old Route, right? So that's what you're going to do if you have to face him?
Yeah. But yeah, him and I have like really close PBs in old route now. His is like 20 or 30 seconds better than mine now. So I'm expecting that to be hopefully if I don't die anywhere, we'll have like a pretty close race. And old route is a lot safer too, so I don't really anticipate that as much.
Yeah, and of course that's assuming Cutie still has to play Freya's Spirit, so we'll see how that race goes.
Yeah, I'm rooting for my boy though.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, I think we got to wrap it up here shortly. So I will say, number one, GG to both of you guys. It was a great race, and I'm looking forward to watching you guys, be in more matches before the end. And then Tracy, thank you so much for doing commentary with me tonight. As always, it's a pleasure. It's been a few weeks since we've been able to do this, so thank you for joining me.
Yeah, I hope we get to do it more often. It's a lot of fun.
So yeah, I will, Tracy. I'll let you have the last word here. I love your closing every time. So I want you to take it away with your catchphrase.
Okay, well, especially since we this is the last race of the night on the channel here. So as always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, wherever you may be.
Hey, thank you.